Shalom, everybody. Shai Fleischer here, broadcasting from Judea. The war in Gaza continues to rage. Israel is fighting terrorism. It's cutting Gaza in half. It's taking over swaths of the Gaza Strip. But we're also losing soldiers. Soldiers are being killed because it's a war with a real bad guy, and you can't take them for granted. At the same time, there are so many more voices out there calling Israel a genocider. That word genocide is being bandied around like it's meaningless, but it's being stuck onto Israel as the new blood libel of our time. I thought that it would be a great opportunity to speak with somebody who's fighting that war on the ground and is in Gaza right now, fighting the bad guys, but also thinking about what the future is and where this war is going. His name, it's Victory Soldier. His identity is withheld. That's for security and for army regulations. And yet Victory Soldier has got a lot to say about the future of Gaza and the future of Israel, and actually, therefore, the future of the world. And my first question to Victory Soldier is, can we get rid of the ideology of jihadism? A lot of people say to me, you can't defeat them. You can't defeat the ideology of jihadism. What do you think, Victory Soldier? Do you think that this war is an effort to defeat not just a terrorist enemy, but also the ideology that drives him? Can jihadism as an idea be defeated?
Is Islamic Jihad an ideology that can be uprooted and defeated? Well, history had many of these death cults, and the Western and civilized populations were able to eradicate such ideologies and ideas, but only with unconditional defeat. Obviously, the main recent characters or actors that come to mind is Nazism, Nazi Germany, and I would say even more so imperialist Japan, that would have never given up. They would have fought to the last Japanese, not soldier, but civilian. And the sheer victory and the decisive bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki forced them into submission, unconditional surrender. And that is what any Japanese now will tell you saved them, basically, from that death and suicidal type of ideology that would have really wiped them off the face of the earth. So can Islamic Jihad ideology be eradicated? I believe so, but only if there's a very decisive victory and decisive action. But even if not, that certainly shouldn't change the way that we operate, because we're not going to give in to such insanity and such a death cult. We have to fight it and be strong. So the only way for us to win, whether or not we erase it altogether from the world, as Western civilization should, or whether just us, small Israel, take care. In any event, it doesn't change the way that we have to operate. We have to be strong against the jihad, and we have to show them that we will not give an inch, and we have to hit them where it hurts. It doesn't hurt them. They're a death cult, so clearly it doesn't hurt when we kill them, and it doesn't hurt when we kill any of their people. That's part of their goal. Their goal is to try to beat us on the world stage by forcing us to go into urban areas. They're hiding behind their children. They're hiding behind their parents. They're a bunch of cowards because they're really weak at the end of the day. And the only way they can win is if people push their propaganda that they invade, they do terrible atrocities, and then they retreat back into hospitals and to schools and to their parents and grandparents and children's homes, and then they use world propaganda to try to stop our response and us beating the jihad. So that obviously is what their mode of operation is, and that should not deter us to eradicate them, to do it by whatever means necessary. We have to be strong, and we have to hit them where it hurts. Where does it hurt? It hurts them in land. It has always been the story. Gaza needs to be cleaned out of jihad and needs to be cleaned out of all the Gazan enemies. Once we clean them out and we send them to Syria, and we send them to Indonesia, we send them to Europe, all of these countries that want to accept these innocent Gazans, once they are no longer here and we start rebuilding the ancient Jewish community of Gaza that's been here for over 1,000 years, then jihad will start losing, and we'll have to recalculate whether or not they want to mess with Israel and also mess with the Western culture once we show them the way. So whether or not jihad can be totally eradicated is a good question. I believe so. Maybe it's just because I'm optimistic. But in any event, it should not change the way we fight them and what the real way of hurting jihad is, and that is by taking land.
Okay, that was a very powerful answer, and it had in it a lot of elements. which also included the fact that the jihad is using global opinion as part of their war against Israel. That's a very important thing to understand. Of course, taking away their land, and the realization that it doesn't matter if you can defeat the ideology in toto. You have to defeat it here. In the here and now, you got to make sure that they are lost, that they are deflated. Interestingly enough, on this past Jerusalem Day, just a few days ago, every year we were accustomed to hearing from the Hamas some kind of threat, some kind of condemnation of the parade in Jerusalem. This year they were not able to bring out any of their messages against Jerusalem Day. And Jerusalem Day was a beautiful event where we indeed marched through all the gates in the Old City, especially the Damascus Gate, the Shechem Gate, and we marched in joy without the threat of Hamas, and that's because they were weakened. So the organization was weakened, and their jihadist messaging was weakened as well. All right, let's go to a second question for Victory Soldier. What about the hostages? Are the hostages rescuable, or are we putting too much effort into the hostage issue instead of destroying the enemy in toto so that there will never be a hostage again? Is the hostage issue, in fact, a tool in the hands of the Hamas in order to weaken our warfare against that horrific organization? Victory Soldier, what do you think about the hostage issue? Are we dealing with it appropriately?
Focusing on the hostages mainly, instead of eradicating the enemy and having a decisive victory, is not only costing us more lives in the present, but it'll definitely cost us more hostages and more lives in the future, as logic would dictate that any future war with our jihadist enemies that surround Israel will just begin with taking hostages. Doesn't matter if they're babies, doesn't matter if they're soldiers. They'll just take as many as they can get, because that'll dictate the rest of the war. So that obviously is dangerous in the present, and it's dangerous for the future. So focusing mainly on the hostages and not on a decisive victory to actually force the enemy by all means necessary to voluntarily bring us, our brothers and sisters, back, is a mistake, is a tactical mistake, is a moral mistake, and is obviously a historical and a future mistake.
So I think what Victory Soldier is talking about right now is the danger of allowing the hostage issue to be overly inflated. It doesn't mean to be cold to the hostages themselves. It means be aware of the fact that this is a tactic of war by the enemy. The enemy is using the hostage issue to make us fight a lesser aggressive war against him, and thereby win against us, and thereby take the next hostages, and thereby defeat us the next time around. We cannot signal to the enemy that the hostages is the only thing that is on our minds and that we'll do anything to rescue the hostages. If we do that, then they'll understand that they have an ace up their sleeve from here on end, and we certainly cannot allow the enemy to have any victory. And so the hostage issue should be fought. We should fight the bad guys until they release them or we rescue them. And we have to ensure more than anything so that the bad guys can never do it again. That's what never again means. Okay, I have one more big question for Victory Soldier, who's on the ground fighting for all of us, fighting for civilization, fighting against the jihad. And in my mind, he's also fighting for Arabs who don't want jihad. In my mind, Victory Soldier is getting rid of the jihadists who suppress the population, who brainwash the children, and really helping get rid of jihad from our region, which depresses our whole region and keeps it in the Middle Ages. But here's a tough question for you, Victory Soldier. Are there any innocent Gazans? Should the Gazans be seen as one thing, just an enemy? Or are there innocent amongst them that our job is to be the liberation nation that helps them matriculate into a normal life? Will they be able to live in a Jewish state as residents? What's the future of Gazan Arabs? Are they all jihadis? Should they be seen as enemies? How should we approach this swath, this 2 million people that no doubt attacked us on October the 7th? But are they all complicit? How should we see them? This is a tough question. What do you say, Victory Soldier?
We got a chance to conduct this interview In any event, I think it's very, very important to share this with anyone you can. In other words, not only should your viewers listen to this and take it into their consideration, but they should also share it with as many of their friends and colleagues as they can to get the truth out there, and especially in this time of so much lies and falsehoods all around us. So your question regarding, are all Gazans, or are there any innocent Gazans? Well, we have to go back fundamentally to October 7th and remember that we were invaded by Gaza. We weren't invaded by a specific group of terrorists. We were invaded by the people of Gaza. I'm not just talking about the fact that Hamas was the democratically elected government from 15 years ago in Gaza, probably one of the only democratic elections that were in any Arab area of the Middle East. But I'm actually talking about the fact that unarmed and some armed, just civilians of all ages, children and old people and crippled people, came in to rape and pillage our villages and our kibbutzim around Gaza on October 7th. So I think that is very clear about who invaded us. It was not Hamas only. All of a sudden, like, you'll have the media talk about Hamas, and you'll have the media talk about the Islamic Jihad and other factions, and there's a Salafi and all sorts of inventions. We're talking about the Gazan people invaded our cities, and they invaded our towns. And they raped, and they murdered, and they tortured, and they kidnapped our brothers and sisters. Now, since then, it is clear in any poll that the majority of Gazans still support those actions of October 7th and have been promising to revisit those actions anytime they will be able to. That's something that's also very important to remember. Another thing that's very important to remember is, if we're talking about a crisis in Gaza, a humanitarian crisis where people and their children are hungry, we must not forget that over the last nearly, let's say about 18, 19 months, so nearing to a year, we haven't received any intel on our hostages from quote-unquote innocent civilians. So that's another issue. In other words, you would think that the pressure being put on them, if you want to believe the media, that they're in dire straits and that their children are hungry and that they have nowhere to go, then certainly, especially if they were innocent and they were against the atrocities and kidnapping of our people, then they would have come forth and helped us find our brothers and sisters that are still being held hostage here in Gaza. So that's another issue regarding the innocents. And I think the last and very, very important point to understand is that if we are really talking about an innocent population that's being held against their will under the tyrant rule of a terrorist organization such as Hamas, that they are totally opposed to, and they're just stuck in the crossfire, then you have to understand that at the very least, the mightiest army in the Middle East has been pummeling this terror organization Hamas for over a year and a half now. And if they were just tyrannically ruling the majority of innocent people in Gaza, then clearly over the year and a half that's been since we have been pummeling Hamas and their infrastructure and their government and their army, obviously now, if not, when would be a better time for that population, that innocent population that's being held under tyrannical rule and the boot of Hamas? Doesn't it make sense that they would rise? Now is the best time and their best chance that they'll ever have, the same way that the Syrian civil war actually was able to topple their government because of the situation and the fact that the army of Assad was weakened by Israel, in addition to others. Even if there are innocent people in Gaza, that should not have any impact on us diligently going to get our innocent brothers and sisters out from Gazan captivity. So it doesn't make any difference to us whether or not there are innocent people in Gaza or not. The facts on the ground show that if there are, then they're very silent and they're very few. But in any event, it should not have any impact on how we push forward and go to continue to try to find our brothers and sisters in captivity for over 600 days.
Very strong points by Victory Soldier there. I would only add that it would make a difference if we believe that there are people who are non-combatants in Gaza. Then on the first days of the war, we would have blown a hole open between Egypt and Israel, between Egypt and Gaza. And that hole would have been justified very, very clearly because Egypt is a combatant in this war. Egypt supplied the rockets and the tunnel digging ability. It all came through tunnels with Egypt. They clearly, at minimum, did not patrol that area, but more likely they were very much complicit in the transfer of material into Gaza. Therefore, they're combatants. Blow a hole in that separation barrier between an Arab country and an Arab area. Announce that Gazans who want out of the conflict zone should swarm into the Sinai and set up shop there via UN tents, UN protection, international protection. And whoever stays in Gaza is therefore a combatant. Where's the international community to try to save all these people from so-called genocide by helping them leave? You don't hear anything about that. I'm saying that if we believe that there are innocent Gazans or Gazans that don't want to fight, who hate the Hamas, and there are protests against the Hamas, then we should give them a way out. And that should have been part of the fighting technique. Blow that hole open. Let the non-combatants, I'm not even going to say innocents, but say non-combatants out. Anybody who wants to stay is therefore deemed a jihadist fighter, and we have every right to attack and to destroy anybody who stands to make war against us. And then, of course, control Gaza, govern it, and if there are residents who want to come back and can swear allegiance to Israel, be residents of the Jewish state of Israel, absolutely, no problem. That's very much part of our mandate as well. I want to thank Victory Soldier very much for coming on and giving us from his time. The very time that he's speaking to us, he's in danger. You could hear the drone above him. And him, along with the IDF soldiers, are bravely defending Israel, pushing back against jihadism for the sake of the whole world, and certainly for the sake of the Jewish people and the sake of this Abrahamic region. So I want to thank you very much, Victory Soldier, and I want to pray for your health and success to come back home safely, and of course for your success in warfare against our enemies and the bringing home of our hostages and making sure that that never happens again. Thank you, Victory Soldier. We salute you. All right, folks, thank you so much for being with me. Don't forget to fight for Israel. It's easy. Fightforisrael.org. Fightforisrael.org is where we fight for our right to continue to exist here in the land of Israel and for the godly story of the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel. Thank you so much. Be a part of it. Go to fightforisrael.org. Help buy tractors and four-wheel drive vehicles for farmers so they can continue to farm the land of Israel. Help us spread Torah throughout the world. Help us broadcast the truth as opposed to the many lies that are out there against Israel. Let's push it out there. Be partners of truth, partners for truth at fightforisrael.org. Of course, you could subscribe, like, comment, and be part of our daily offerings at Yishai Fleisher TV on all the regular outlets, especially YouTube, of course. And don't forget, buymeacoffee.com/Yishai for a way to support this broadcast. God bless you, folks, wherever you are. Lots of love, lots of blessings, lots of good energy in the face of the darkness. Israel will continue to thrive and survive and to be a light to the nations because you're a part of it wherever you are. Lots of blessings wherever you are indeed. From the land of Israel, light and shalom.